Shabbatah, Shalom on the Sabbath day. Welcome to the Philadelphia Assemblies. Today is the 8th day of the second month of the year 5780. I'll get used to saying that sooner or later here. It's also the 16th day of May 2020. It's the third Sabbath of the Feast of Weeks, counting down towards Shabbat or Shavuot or Pentecost, and it's the 21st day of the Feast of Weeks. So that's the date and where we are as we count the Omer count down to Shabbat or Pentecost. We're going to be continuing our expository teaching today in the book of 2 Kings. We're going to start in 16 and go for about an hour, as we always do. But before we get started, we're going to turn towards the temple, towards Jerusalem, to where the temple was and where it's prophesied to be again, as Scripture instructs. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we praise you in all things. Father, we just want to continue to hold up all those in prayer that have had this coronavirus and are suffering with it as we speak. We ask that your healing power be upon them. We ask that your peace that passes understanding would be upon the families that have lost loved ones. And we ask that you would stay this plague, stop it, and protect your people. Keep your hedge around all your elect. And Father, even those that are not yet called, we ask that your blessing be upon all nations, Father, as you promised Abraham. We ask that you would continue to heal and draw your people back together. Father, we also pray that as we go to your word today, that your Ruach HaKodesh instruct us, your Holy Spirit of promise, that it would teach us all things. Father, let your words be my words, and Father, help us to have that extra unction of understanding. We ask it all in your precious Son, Yahushua's name. Amen. All right. Again, we're in 2 Kings chapter 16, and we're going to start in verse 1. It says, in the 17th year of Pekah, the Ben, or son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Yehudah, began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah his Elohim. So he did not do what was right, like his father David, or David in English, his father. Verse 3, but he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, yes, and made his Ben, or sons, to pass through the fire according to the abominations of the nations, says heathen in your King James, but of the nations that were around them, whom Yahuwah cast out from before the Ben of Israel. So when they went into the promised land, he cast those people out for him, these other nations, and Israel had done just as they had been prophesied that they would do by Moshe or Moses, as they went after these other ones, and this curse that's been talked about is coming upon Israel. Okay? And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places. In other words, in places they set up other than in Jerusalem, and on the hills and under every green tree. Okay, or the groves they would have called them. Verse 5, then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, Ben, or son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war, and they attacked Ahaz, but could not overpower him. Verse 6, at that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, or returned him, got Elath and brought him back to Syria, and drove the Jews, and this is the first time the word Jew is mentioned in the scriptures, okay? And this word Jew here is referring to those tribes that weren't cut off. Israel is the tribes that are cut off. That when he's talking about the Jews here, he's talking about the southern tribes, those in Jerusalem. That would have been the Yehudim or Judah, okay? And it would have been part of Levi, because they had their priesthood there that was serving in Jerusalem, and also Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin. They would have all been referred to as Jews at this time. For from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there into this day. And I said, brought him back earlier. This is talking about a piece of land that they captured. I want to correct that. Okay. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria and drove the Jews from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there until this day, until this book was recorded. Verse 7, and this was thought to be written by the kings, recorded by kings. Different people, would have been different scribes. Verse 7, so Ahaz sent messengers, or malachim, okay, same word again that would be translated to angels a lot of time. So Ahaz sent malachim to Giglath-Pilesar, king of Syria, and I know I destroyed that, king of Assyria, not Syria, saying, I am your servant and your ben or son. Come up and save us, okay, or deliver me out of the hand of the king of Syria and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rose up against me. Okay. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Yahuwah and in the treasuries of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. Okay. And the king of Assyria listened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus and captured it and carried the people of it to captivity to Kir and slew Rezin. Okay. Verse 10, and King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, whatever how that's pronounced, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest the model of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. So they're saying that Uriah the priest was the model of the altar and a pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. And I'm not exactly sure what that might mean. It might mean that he was in line with it. Let's continue and see if the scripture defines it. Verse 11, and Uriah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus to Uriah. Now, I don't think building altars, except for in Jerusalem, would be acceptable. Now, let's see where this is at. And Uriah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it before King Ahaz came from Damascus. Verse 12. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar and offered thereon. And we know he's not supposed to be offering on the high places. We already know he didn't do as Yahuwah wanted him to do. And he burnt his burnt offering and his grain offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offering upon the altar. Now, this is going back to what we read at the beginning of the chapter, where he's doing it in the high places and other places. And this priest that we talked about obviously wasn't doing good, and he was, to me, it appears now that as I read on, that they built it in his image, so they were literally worshiping an image of this priest, okay? According to what he's saying here, what it said in verse 10, it said, and, oh, here it is, and Damascus, and Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest the model of the altar and the pattern of it according to all the workmanship thereof. And in other words, it said that it was built in his image. So this is definitely not a good thing, and they're offering incense and sacrifices somewhere other than Jerusalem. Okay? Verse 14, and he brought also the brazen altar which was before, which here, let's see. Yeah, which was before Yahuwah, and this was probably face to face with Yahuwah. Okay, so let's reread that. And he brought also the brazen altar which was face to face with Yahuwah from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of Yahuwah, and put it on the north side of the altar. So this was in Jerusalem, it sounds like. Okay. And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening grain offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice, and his grain offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offering, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offerings, and all the blood of the sacrifices, and the brazen altar shall be for me to seek guidance by. So he's using this altar as like a medium, which is absolutely against the commandments of Yahuwah. Thus, so did Uriah the priest, according to all that King Ahaz commanded. And King Ahaz cut off the borders of the base and removed the laver from off them. That would have been where they would have washed. And took down the sea from off the brazen oxen that were under it, and put it upon the pavement of the stones, and the covered corridor of the Sabbath that they had built in the house, and the king's entry without. Removed he from the house of Yahuwah for the king of Assyria. So he removed that off from the house of all those things off so that he could give them to the king of Assyria. Verse 19. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz, which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Yehudah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Hezekiah his ben reigned in his stead. In the 20th year of Ahaz, king of Yehudah, began Hoshea, the ben of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. Verse 2, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him, so differently. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him tribute. Verse 4, and the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent Malachim, or angels, or messengers, to So, king of Egypt. So, that was his name, king of Egypt. And brought no gift, or no tribute to the king of Assyria as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in a prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and attacked it 3 years. Okay? He was on them for 3 years. Verse 6, in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in Habar by the river Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. For so it was that the ben of Israel had sinned against Yahuwah their Elohim. So that they got carried away into captivity, as Moshe had promised, which had been brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other Elohim. Okay, the word gods here in your King James is Elohim, just the same as if you would, be saying, they would translate it just singular gods when it's talking about the Elohim of Israel. Okay, verse 8, and walked in the statutes of the nations. Says heathen in your King James. Same words translated Gentiles in other spots. Okay, whom Yahuwah cast out from before the sons, or the Ben of Israel, and of the king of Assyria, which they had made. And the Ben, or sons of Israel, did secretly those things that were not right against Yahuwah, their Elohim. See, this is the same thing as they translated the gods earlier. Okay, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. And they set them up idols, okay? They set them up idols and grove, or actually, I think they sacred pillars and groves, or idols, in every high hill and under every green tree. So the second one that's in your King James that says groves would have been Asherah idols. That's what they did. Verse 11, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, and did the nations, or Gentiles, and here they got translated heathen again, whom Yahuwah carried away before them, and did wicked things to provoke Yahuwah to anger. For they served idols, whereof Yahuwah had said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing. Verse 13, yet Yahuwah testified against Israel and against Yehudah by all the prophets and by all the prophets and the seers and all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the Torah, says law in your King James, that word is Torah, which I commanded your fathers and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Verse 14, notwithstanding, or however, they would not hear, but hardened their hearts, okay, or became stubborn, like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in Yahuwah their Elohim. Verse 15, that's how Yahuwah knows if you believe him or not. Believe in him or not is whether you keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments. If you don't keep his Torah, then you don't love him. Verse 15, and they rejected his statutes and his covenant, okay, that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed worthless things, and became worthless, and went after the nations that were round about them, concerning whom Yahuwah had commanded them, that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahuwah their Elohim, and made them molten images, plural, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the host of the Shamayim, or the heaven, and served Baal, okay, which is the Lord, okay. The word Baal means the Lord. Verse 17, and they caused their Ben and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used fortune telling and sorcery, and sold them to do evil in the sight of Yahuwah, to provoke him to anger. 18, therefore Yahuwah was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Yehudah only. Now, again, that includes Benjamin and Levi in that area, okay? They talking about the tribe of Yehudah. That's those that occupied Jerusalem at that time. Verse 19, and Yehuda kept not the commandments of Yahuwah their Elohim, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they established. Israel, the other tribes that were cut off. In other words, Yehuda wasn't doing any better. Okay? Also, Yehuda kept not the commandments of Yahuwah their Elohim. All right, I just read that. Verse 20. And Yahuwah rejected all the descendants of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight, just as Moses had sang to them in the song of Moshe back in the Exodus. Okay? This is all coming to pass. Everything, just as Yahuwah told him it would through his Malach, Moshe. Okay, and then it says, for he tore Israel from the house of David, separated them. And they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat, or the ben of Nebat, and Jeroboam drove Israel from following Yahuwah and made them sin a great sin. And they did it again. They made these molten calves, and they continued not to go up to Jerusalem to keep the feast. Okay, they went to all these high places and things and offered some, and Yehuda did it too. But yet Yehuda was not yet cut off from Israel. Okay, just Jerusalem, because of this sin of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. It's plain in the book here. That's why. Okay, for the Ben of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam. Okay, I just read that. Which he did, they departed not from them. 23, until Yahuwah removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets, including Moshe. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria until this day that this book was recorded. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the Ben or sons of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahuwah their Elohim, sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Therefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in cities of Samaria know not the manner of Elohim of the land thereof. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner or the custom of Elohim of the land. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry to there one of the priests whom ye brought from there, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner or the customs of the Elohim of the land. 28. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel. That's where they had the two calves and everything, and they set up their mock temple instead of in Jerusalem, and taught them how they should fear Yahuwah. However, every nation made Elohim of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places, which the Samaritans had made every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. Because Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, the Ben of Nebat, feared that the children of Israel, or the Jews that were in the southern part of the thing, would follow. Or actually, the Israelites that he brought down to Jerusalem wouldn't go him. They would cling to not Jeroboam, was it? Rehoboam. Thank you. To Rehoboam, son of Solomon. And this sin was that way because of that. He built these high places because he was afraid that he didn't trust Yahuwah to do as he had told him. And this sin is carrying on generational curse. Verse 30, and the men of Babylon made Succoth, Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Eshima. These are other gods, okay, that they followed after. Elohim, other Elohim. And the Avites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and Sepharvites burnt their children in the fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, the Elohim of Sepharim. And I am again is talking about those people. It's plural. Verse 32. So they feared Yahuwah and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priest of the high places instead of Levi, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places instead of in Jerusalem. 33. And they feared Yahuwah and served their own Elohim after the manner of the nations. Same word they translated heathens earlier, the same Hebrew word, whom they carried away from there. Verse 34, unto this day they do after the former manners or customs. They fear not Yahuwah, neither do they after their statutes, okay, or their decrees, or after their ordinances, or after the Torah and the commandment which Yahuwah commanded the Ben of Jacob, whom he named Israel. Verse 35, with whom Yahuwah had made a covenant and charged them, saying, this is all in red in this red letter edition, the Sword King James Bible that I have here. Ye shall not fear other Elohim, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But Yahuwah, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with a great power and a stretched out arm, which he's talking about the Ruach HaKodesh, the angel of Yahuwah, okay? Him shall you fear, Yahuwah, and him shall you worship, Yahuwah. I'm adding that every time. And to him shall you do sacrifices, and no other. I added no other. 37, and the statutes, and the ordinances, and the Torah, and the commandment, which he wrote for you, you shall observe to do for how long? Forevermore. And you shall not fear other Elohim. And the covenant that I have made with you, you shall not forget, neither shall you fear other Elohim. But Yahuwah your Elohim you shall fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. However, they did not listen, but they did after their former manner, custom. Verse 41, so these nations feared Yahuwah and served their graven images, both their Ben and their Ben's Ben, as did their fathers, so do they until this day, till the book's recorded. Chapter 18. Now it came to pass in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the Ben of Ahaz, king of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Abby, the daughter of Zechariah. Verse 3, and he did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah, according to all that David his father did. This guy Hezekiah is right on the mark here. Okay? And it says, and he did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah as his father did, David did. Verse 4, he removed the high places in Yehudah, and brake the images, and cut down the groves, Asherah idols, and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For into those days the men of Israel did burn incense to it, to that idol that looked like a snake. That's the same thing that they use for the doctor's thing today. That snake is what that's all about. And he called it Nehushtan, okay, or a thing of bronze. That's what it means. Verse 5, he trusted in Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, so that after him was none like him among the kings of Yehudah, nor any that were before him. Okay? And that's awesome, you know. I mean, any that were before him. But he was compared to his father David. Verse 6, for he clung to Yahuwah and departed not from following him, but kept his commandments, which Yahuwah commanded Moshe, the Torah. I added that. Verse 7, and Yahuwah was with him, and he prospered wherever he went. And he rebelled against the king of Assyria and served him not. He smote the Philistines, even unto Gaza, and the borders thereof, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. Verse 9, and it came to pass in the 40th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hosea, ben of Elah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and attacked it. Verse 10, and at the end of 3 years they took it. Even in the sixth year of Hezekiah, that is in the 9th year of Hosea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. This is recapping what we already read earlier. Okay? It's not another event. And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel into Assyria and put them in Hala and in the harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. Verse 12, because they obeyed not the voice of Yahuwah their Elohim, but transgressed his covenant, and all that Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded, and would not hear them nor do them. That's why. Just as it was prophesied by Moshe that they would do. Okay? Verse 13. Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and I might have did it, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fortified cities of Yehudah and took them. And Hezekiah, king of Yehudah, sent the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have done wrong. Return from me that which you put on me will I bear. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Yehudah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. So that he said, whatever you ask for, I'll give it to you. And that's what he asked for. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of Yahuwah and in the treasuries of the king's house. At that time did Hezekiah strip the gold from the doors of the temple of Yahuwah and from the pillars which Hezekiah, king of Yehudah, had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria sent Tartan, Rabashakeh from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a great host against Israel. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. And when they were come up, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is the highway of the fuller's field. And when they had called to the king, there came out to them Eliakim, the ben of Hilkiah, which was over the household and Shebna, the scribe, and Yoah, the son of Asaph, the recorder. And these guys were also psalmists, as you read in the Psalms. Okay, these same guys write them. They were scribes or recorders. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Speak you now to Hezekiah, thus saith the great king of Assyria. What confidence is this wherein you trust? You say, but they are but vain words. And that was added. I have counsel and had strength for the war. Now on whom dost thou trust, that you rebel against me? Now behold, you trust upon the staff of this bruised reed. Okay, and a bruised reed would be like a prophet. Okay, that's what he's talking about here. He's referring to themselves as prophets. Even upon Egypt, and on which if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt, and to all that trust on him. Verse 22, but if you say unto me, we trust in Yahuwah our Elohim, is not that he whose high places are shrines, and whose altars Hezekiah hath taken away, and has said to Yehuda and Jerusalem, you shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem? It's kind of a weird question, because Yahuwah never appointed any of those high places. He only appointed Jerusalem. Verse 23, now therefore I beg you, give pledges, or make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria, and I will deliver you 2,000 horses, if you be able on your part to set riders upon them. How then will you turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put your trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? Verse 25, am I now come upon without Yahuwah against this place to destroy it? Yahuwah said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Verse 26, then said Eliakim, the ben of Hilkiah, and Shebna, and Joah, until Rabashak, speak, I pray you, to your servant in the Syrian language, for we understand it. Now that's because they've been in captivity in Syria. And talk not with us in the Jews' language in the hearing of the people that are on the wall, because they won't understand you. Okay? And that's because they're not from Israel, these ones that are speaking that. Okay? But Rabshakeh said unto them, hath my master sent me to thy master and to you to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men which sit on the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? Okay? And Yahuwah what he's doing is he's sending them and letting them be a curse against themselves. Okay? Verse 28, then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language, okay, in the Jewish language, and the Hebrew language that they all spoke, and spake, saying, hear the word of the great king of Assyria. Okay? Thus saith the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you or mislead you, for he shall not be able to deliver you out of the hand. Now we know what it said about Hezekiah at the beginning of this. Okay? Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in Yahuwah, saying, Yahuwah will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't trust him if he tells you that. Listen not to Hezekiah. For thus saith the king of Assyria, make you your peace with me by a present, and come up to me. And then eat you every man of his own vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one of the waters of his cistern. Now, he told you earlier what he's talking about. Eating of their own dung and drinking of their own urine. Okay? That's what he's talking about there. It's not as it appears. Okay? His own cistern. Verse 32, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of oil and olive oil, and of honey, that you may live and not die, and listen not unto Hezekiah when he persuades or when he misleads you, saying, Yahuwah will deliver us. Okay? He's promised them everything Yahuwah promised them somewhere else other than where Yahuwah promised them. Okay? Verse 33. Hath any of the Elohim of the nations delivered at all his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Now, that's because he wasn't worshiping those other gods, and them are idols anyway. Okay? They don't. Verse 34. Where are the gods of Hamath and of Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Ivan? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? No. Who are they among all the Elohim of the countries that have delivered their country out of my hand, that Yahuwah should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? It's a question. He's like, why would you think all these other countries that we've overtaken, why would you think Yahuwah is going to deliver you out, and all these other Elohim haven't delivered out these other nations? Okay? Verse 36, but the people held their peace and answered him not a word. Okay? For the king's commandment was saying, answer him not. Verse 37, then came Eliakim, the ben of Hilkiah, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, Joah, the ben of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah, with their clothes torn, and told him the words of Rekshiam. In other words, they knew that wasn't the right thing to do. They tore their clothes, and that was a sign saying that, we know this is not right, but this is what he said, so don't shoot the messengers. Okay? Because these guys are scribes. Okay? And they also wrote some of the Psalms. Okay? Chapter 19. I don't know why I said 29. And it came to pass, when King Hezekiah heard it, that he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of Yahuwah. And he set Eliakim, which was over the household, and Shebna, the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz. Okay? Verse 3, and they said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble, and of rebuke, and of disgrace. For the ben are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. In other words, it's like a breach. Okay? It can't come out. Okay? Verse 4, it may be Yahuwah, your Elohim, will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria his master has sent to reproach the living Elohim, and will criticize the words which Yahuwah your Elohim hath heard. Wherefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that are left. Verse 5. So the servant of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah. Verse 6. And Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall you say to your master, thus saith Yahuwah, be not afraid of the words which thou hast heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have reviled me. Okay? And that was Yahuwah speaking. Okay? He said, thus saith Yahuwah. Okay? Which have reviled Yahuwah. Okay? Verse 7. Behold, I will send a spirit in him, and he shall hear a rumor, and shall return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. Okay? Talking about the king of Assyria will fall in his own land. Verse 8. And so, so Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he had heard that he was departed from Lachish. And when he had heard say of Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, behold, he is come out to fight against you, he sent Malachim, angels, messengers, again unto Hezekiah, saying, Thus shall you speak to Hezekiah, king of Yehuda, saying, Let not your Elohim, in whom you trust, deceive you, saying, Jerusalem shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the king of Assyria has done to all the lands by destroying them completely, and shall you be spared? Have the Elohim of the nations delivered them, which my father have destroyed, as Gozan and Haran and Rezeph and the Ben of Eden, which were in Thelashar? I guess I got that right. Verse 13. Where is the king of Hamath, and the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sepharim, of Hena, and Iva? These are all places that the king of Assyria had overtaken. Okay? And Hezekiah received the letter of the hand of the Malachim, or messengers, or angels, and read it. And Hezekiah went up into the house of Yahuwah and spread it before Yahuwah in the temple. Okay? And Hezekiah prayed before Yahuwah and said, O Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art Elohim, even thou alone of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made the Shamayim and earth, or the heaven and earth. Yahuwah, bow down your ear and hear. Open, Yahuwah, your eyes and see and hear the words of Sennacherib, which has sent him to insult the living Elohim. Verse 17. Of a truth, Yahuwah, the kings of Assyria have destroyed the nations and their lands, and have cast their Elohim into the fire, for they were no Elohim, their idols, but the work of the men's hands, wood and stone, therefore they have destroyed them. Verse 19. Now therefore, O Yahuwah, our Elohim, I beg you, save you us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you are Yahuwah Elohim, even you alone. Okay? And we know that the Most High is none like him. Okay? And that's what he's saying in that. Okay? Verse 20. Then Isaiah, the son of Amos, sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, that which you have prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, I have heard. 21. This is the word of Yahuwah. This is the word that Yahuwah has spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised you and laughed you to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at you. 22. Whom have you insulted and reviled? And against whom have you exalted your voice and lifted up your eyes on high? Even against the Holy One of Israel? Now, I'm going to make a statement here that I know a lot of don't agree with, but the Holy One of Israel is not Jesus or Yahushua. Okay? He hasn't been born yet. He's prophesied of. The arm, the Malach of Yahuwah, all these things are describing the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Holy One of Israel is Yahuwah. Okay? He is the Holy One of them. Now listen to what he says in verse 23. By your messenger, or Malachim, that they sent to Hezekiah, you has reproached or reviled Yahuwah, and has said, can't get these pages to separate, I'm sorry. The multitude of my chariots am I come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and will cut down the tall cedar trees thereof, and the choice fir trees thereof, and I will enter into the lodgings of its borders, and into the forest of his Carmel. Verse 24, I have digged and drank strange waters, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of besieged places. This is Yahuwah speaking. Verse 25. Has you not heard long ago how I have done it, and of ancient times that I have formed it? That's Yahuwah speaking. Now have I brought it to pass that you should be to lay waste fortified cities into ruinous heaps. Verse 26, therefore their inhabitants were of little strength. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field, and as the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as the grain blasted before it be grown up. But I know your dwelling place, your abode, and you're going out and you're coming in. That's Yahuwah speaking to the king of Assyria, and your rage against me. Yahuwah. Verse 28, Sennacherib's rage against Yahuwah. Verse 28, because your rage against me and your tumult is come up into my ears, therefore I will put my hook in your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way by which you came. Verse 29, and this shall be a sign unto you. You shall eat this year such things as grow of themselves, and in the second year of themselves, and in the third year that which springeth up of the same, and in the third year sow ye and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruits thereof. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Yehudah shall yet again take root downward and bear fruit upward. Okay, he's going to bless Yehudah. Okay, the Yehudim, he's going to bless them and lift them up. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion, the zeal of Yahuwah of the multitudes shall do this. That's who's doing it. He's going to fight before them. He's going to send his Ruach. He's going to send his Malach before them to fight them for them. Verse 32, therefore thus saith Yahuwah concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a siege mound against it. By the way that he came, by the same way shall he return, and shall not come into this city, just as he said earlier, saith Yahuwah. For I will defend this city to save it, for my own sake, and for my servant David's sake, King David. Verse 35, and it came to pass that night that the Malach of Yahuwah, the Ruach HaKodesh, whatever you want to give him the name of it, here it is. I mean, read and understand. And it came to pass that night that the Malach of Yahuwah went out and smote the camp of the Assyrians 180, or 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead bodies or corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, is departed and went and returned and dwelt in Nineveh, just as Yahuwah had said. And it came to pass, as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch his Eloah, that Adaramelech and Sheazar his Ben smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia. We all know where Armenia is today. And Esarhaddon, his Ben, reigned in his stead. Okay. We're going to continue. We're going to read one more chapter. We'll go a little over an hour, but I'm not ready quite to stop yet. Chapter 20. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, came to him and said unto him, thus saith Yahuwah, set your house in order, for you shall die and not live. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto Yahuwah, saying, I beg you, O Yahuwah, remember now how I walked before you in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in your sight. And Hezekiah cried bitterly. And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle of the court, that the word of Yahuwah, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, came to Isaiah, saying, Turn again and tell Hezekiah the captain of my people, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of David your father, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears. Behold, I will heal you on the third day. You shall go up unto the house of Yahuwah, and I will add unto your days 15 years, and I will deliver you and this city out of the hand of the king of the Syrians, and I will defend this city for my own sake and for my servant David's sake, not your sake. Okay? And Isaiah said, Take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, What shall be the sign that Yahuwah will heal me, and that I shall go up into the house of Yahuwah the third day? And Isaiah said, The sign shall you have of Yahuwah, that Yahuwah will do the thing that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, okay, or steps, or go back 10 degrees? Verse 10, and Hezekiah answered, It is a light thing, or an easy thing, for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. No, but let the shade return back 10 degrees. So, what he's talking about here is they used to keep time by the sun, okay? And they would watch what time of day it was by how many degrees the sun had moved. So he said it's a little thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. No, but let the shadow return back 10 degrees. So in other words, turn back time. That's what he's saying. And that's basically what he did for Hezekiah. Is turn back time. He gave him 15 more years. Okay? That's what he's talking about. Verse 11, and Isaiah the prophet cried unto Yahuwah, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial, or a sundial, of Ahaz. Okay? At that time, Berodach Baal-Adon, whatever that is, the Ben of Baal-Adon, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah listened unto them, and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasuries. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, What said these men? And from where did they come unto you? And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, What have they seen in your house? And Hezekiah answered, And all the things that are in my house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, Hear the word of Yahuwah. Behold, the days come, that all that is in your house, and that which your fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried away unto Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith Yahuwah. And of your sons, or your ben, that shall issue from you, which you shall beget, they take away, and they shall be eunuchs, okay, or powerless, cut off their testicles, in the palace of the king of Babylon. Verse 19, Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of Yahuwah which has spoken. And he said, Is it not good if peace and truth be in my days? And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah, and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit, and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Yehudah? And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh, his son, reigned in his stead. And that, we're going to stop it right there. And that's really almost perfect on timing for an hour. Again, may Yahuwah be with you until we meet again. And don't forget to go to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and then click on that little bell so you get notifications. Don't forget to give us a like. They're on, not just on Facebook, but on YouTube. We're not getting very many counts back to YouTube. Please do that. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you have, sorry.